Welcome to CET Medcast, your go-to resource for medical learning. Through discussions, case studies, tutorials, and debates, we help you learn, grow, heal.
All right, today we're going to unravel a really cool biological mystery, one that you've probably noticed but maybe never really thought about. Why does the left side of your brain control the right side of your body and the other way around? It's a fundamental piece of our wiring, and we're about to map out exactly how those signals make their incredible journey. I mean, it's a scenario you see all the time, right? A medical drama, someone has a stroke on one side of their brain and suddenly the opposite side of their body is paralyzed. So how on earth is that possible? Well, it's not some kind of glitch in the system. It's actually a very deliberate, very specific design feature of our neural wiring. Let's trace it. So to really understand this whole opposite side control thing, the scientific term is contralateral control, we first need to get the lay of the land. The best way to think about it is to picture your nervous system as this massive biological superhighway with billions of messages just zipping back and forth every single second. Now, the main interstate, the big I-95 of this whole system, is your spinal cord. It's this thick bundle of nerves that runs from the base of your brain all the way down your back. It's the essential pipeline for pretty much every signal traveling between your brain and the rest of your body. And this highway is definitely not a one-way street. We've got constant, heavy, two-way traffic. You've got your ascending pathways. Think of them as the northbound lanes. They're carrying all the sensory information up to the brain. You know, what you touch, feel, the temperature. Then you've got your descending pathways, the southbound lanes, carrying all the commands from the brain out to your muscles, like move your hand or start walking. And this superhighway is incredibly organized. It is not just a chaotic jumble of traffic. Specific kinds of information travel in their own dedicated lanes, and we call these lanes tracts. So as you can see here, there are specific lanes for touch, different lanes for pain, and separate lanes for telling your muscles what to do. This organization is absolutely key to making the whole system work. Okay, so our journey up the spinal cord brings us to a really critical junction, and honestly, the most important one for answering our big question. We have arrived at the medulla oblongata. I like to call it the Great Crossing. You can see it right here, at the very base of the brainstem. The medulla is basically the gateway between that spinal cord highway and the brain's main command center. It might look small, but its role is absolutely gigantic. Yeah, the medulla isn't just a simple pass-through. It's a control hub for life itself. It manages your heartbeat, your breathing, things you don't even think about. It's also home to these dense clusters of neurons called nuclei for several crucial cranial nerves. But for what we're talking about today, its most important feature is that it contains the pyramids. These are massive bundles of motor fibers coming down from the brain. So let's follow one of those commands, shall we? Imagine your left motor cortex decides you're going to snap your right fingers. An electrical signal fires and travels down from the brain, entering these huge bundles of fibers we call the corticospinal tracts. They start heading down, down, down toward the brainstem. But as these fibers get to the very bottom of that small but mighty medulla we just looked at, they approach the single most important intersection on this entire trip. And boom, here it is. This is the answer. In the lower part of the medulla, about 90% of those motor fibers that started in the left hemisphere cross over to the right side of the spinal cord. This massive crossover event is called the pyramidal decussation. Decussation is just a fancy word for crossing. This is the exact spot where left becomes right. Okay, now that we've seen the Great Crossing and the medulla, let's keep moving just a little bit further up our brainstem highway to the next major structure, the pons. Its name in Latin literally means bridge, and that's the perfect way to describe it. It sits right on top of the medulla, and it's basically a massive communications bridge connecting different parts of the brain with each other and with the spinal cord below. So the pons has a few key jobs. It's a critical relay station that connects the thinking part of your brain, the cortex, to the cerebellum, which is all about coordinating movement. And it does this using specialized neuron clusters called the pontine nuclei. It also acts as a bridge for all that northbound and southbound traffic we talked about. And, just like the medulla, it contains important nuclei for cranial nerves that control things like your facial expressions and even your hearing. Okay, so we've seen how a command gets from the brain to the body, but what about the other way around? Let's trace a sensory signal, the northbound traffic, to see how all these pieces fit together. Now, this diagram shows the full journey a signal for fine touch takes, all the way from your skin to your brain. This specific route has a big name, the posterior column medial lemniscus pathway. I know, it looks complex, but don't worry, we're going to break it down step by step. Okay, step 1. Imagine a fly lands on your right index finger. A sensory neuron immediately fires off a signal. That signal zips up your arm and enters the spinal cord. Now, for this first part of the trip, it stays on the right side, just cruising up that same side sensory superhighway. No crossing yet. Step 2 brings us right back to our star player, the medulla. Here, our first neuron hands off the signal to a second neuron. This handoff happens inside a little cluster of cells called the nucleus cuneatus. And what does that second neuron do? It immediately decussates. It crosses over to the left side. So get this, sensory information also crosses over in the medulla, just like the motor commands. So now that signal for the touch on your right finger is traveling on the left side of your nervous system. It continues its journey north, passes right through the pons, our bridge, and heads for a structure called the thalamus, which is kind of like the brain's grand central station for sorting all incoming sensory info. And finally, step 4. From the thalamus, a third and final neuron takes that signal to its ultimate destination, the somatosensory cortex in your left cerebral hemisphere. That's the part of your brain that actually processes touch. It's only now, after this entire journey, that you consciously realize, hey, there's a fly on my right finger. The journey is complete. So let's just quickly recap the main motor pathway we focused on. It's called the lateral cortical spinal tract, and it's what controls all your fine, skilled movements. It starts in the motor cortex. But the crucial point, the main event, is its decussation, its crossing point, which happens in the pyramids of the medulla. And there you have it. The reason a stroke on the left side of the brain messes with the right side of the body is this really elegant and efficient design feature called decussation. It's the crossing of both motor and sensory pathways, and it all happens in that tiny but absolutely vital structure at the base of your brain, the medulla. And just think about this for a second. The journey we just traced is only one of billions upon billions of signals firing through your nervous system every single second. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible neurological journeys are happening inside of you right at this very moment?